Appear weak when you are strong and strong when you are weak. Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 15 of Commoners Honing All Disciplines podcast. Fight or flight, which is the question we'll be answering today, and have a discussion about martial arts. We're going to go over all kinds of martial arts, all the ones that we know, and talk about starting out martial arts, how to choose a martial art. We'll compare a bunch of different ones, talk about theory, talk about practice. So it's going to be good.
Yeah, I'm excited about this one. I have a lot of
Yeah, this guy's got a lot of knowledge.
about it, but I would say comparatively, uh, let's say on average, probably a lot more than the average person. But like to pro, like don't get mad at me. Don't get mad at me if you're like a pro at any of these what's it called? Any of these martial arts, and you're like, yo, this dude's totally wrong. Yeah, I might be totally wrong about some things, but probably not. I'll probably be a little off on some things, but for the most part,
Yeah, that's okay.
I have a good amount of experience, a healthy amount of experience in Taekwondo, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Jiu-Jitsu with a gi, so traditional Jiu-Jitsu, and as well experience boxing and Muay Thai. So I've done I would say a good amount, like a few years worth of mixed martial arts with separately with Taekwondo when I was younger, which improved my kicking by a lot. And then transitioned into more, I'd say, functional fighting styles like boxing, Muay Thai, and Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, which is a more focused on no gi, which means no uniform, basically, uh, like the UFC fighters or MMA fighters would normally do, with no uniform on, no shirts on, right? Just like straight to the point fighting and ground game. So with that, I guess we can start with.
I'll just start about what I have
Yeah,
done.
absolutely.
Not very much. It was, I did about 8 months, half of it online because of certain restrictions. And it was just about a year ago when I started. And I did boxing and Muay Thai. So I've
Yeah,
got my feet wet with it, but I haven't become an expert by any means. But I do have my own bag, so I practice
very
regularly.
nice. Yeah, those striking sports are really good. Probably something easier to practice alone than like jujitsu or judo or something like sambo or wrestling. You really do need a
Yeah,
partner for
I
those.
did a few MMA classes and grappled maybe like 4 times, but it was fun. I definitely enjoyed it a lot. I want to get back to it.
Yeah, I'm hoping when all this crap ends, I can get back into the gym. I was going like pretty hard for a while. I would say for like at least a year, maybe a year and a half, I was going like hard. I
Hmm.
was going like 2, 3 classes a day for like Muay Thai, boxing, and Jiu-Jitsu, like rotating between those three basically. And by no sense an expert at all, but I was training to compete Muay Thai because I do
Hmm.
believe it's necessary to compete to see where your level is at, and just to gauge like if you've actually been practicing correctly, right? Like, are you actually effective in a real fighting scenario, or is it just like you're getting in shape while learning kind of how to do certain moves, right? Certain strikes, certain um, functional fitness, right? So that's a good way to kind of
Yeah,
gauge.
you have to have another person there to get the same feeling as a fight.
Yeah, but I wasn't able to compete the year I was going to compete, which was 20. When did all this stuff start? Was it 2020? In
Yeah.
2020. So the beginning of 2020 was actually when I was going to compete, and I got a couple of injuries, and then the whatever what rolled around in the early 2020 for Canada around March.
Yeah.
So after that, like it was really tough getting in the gym. In the summer, we went back a little bit, but it wasn't the same. There's all this
Yeah. Yeah.
restrictions still at the summer 2020, And then after it just closed down almost completely, and now it's like I'm not even sure if the gym I used to go to is still open. I think it might be, but like with private classes and stuff. But really, like these gyms are suffering. So, once
True.
this stuff ends, I really, really recommend like joining a gym, joining an MMA gym, right, where you can have multiple styles of fighting. The most common three at MMA gyms in Canada for me seem to be BJJ, Muay Thai, and boxing. That's like the most three common things. You also have wrestling is up there as well. Taekwondo and karate are very popular, but for karate, I'd say do a specific type of karate, which is Kyokushin, and I'll go more into that obviously later on. Why I think
Mm.
certain martial arts are better than others and more effective ones based on statistics, like and then street fighting compared to like actual competitive fighting. There's big differences between all these things, and they all kind of have to be fleshed out a little bit in order to determine like what's really happening with all these sports, essentially arts and sports. Um, I guess we should start with what are people's goals for whatever they're doing, whichever martial art they decide. What are their goals?
Yeah, so if you are about to choose one, you can pick which one is going to get you closest to your goal,
Mm-hmm.
depending on what that might be. Maybe you want to be uh, better in a street fight. Maybe you want to compete. Maybe you just want to get in shape.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah, and the beautiful thing about all these martial arts is most of them will get you in good shape. It simply depends how much time and energy you're willing to put into them, right? I'd say most martial arts will get you into shape. If you want to be very aesthetic, if you want big biceps, do boxing.
mm,
Boxing focus a lot on the upper body and the arms, right? You're not worried about legs as much, and you want to still look good. This is all aesthetics right now. I'm talking purely aesthetics right now in terms of martial arts. If you want to get big biceps, do boxing, right? If you want to get strong legs, strong kicks, you do Taekwondo. You want to get those legs stronger. You want to get those legs being able to move fast and improve flexibility. Taekwondo as well for flexibility. Jiu-Jitsu, phenomenal for flexibility and core strength, right? If that's what you're looking for, and you want to learn how to, move around on the ground with some confidence. Jiu-Jitsu is probably the one for you, regardless if it's with gi or no gi, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or traditional. It's very likely going to get you a very strong core and a strong neck. Wrestling will
yeah,
do the same.
neck, that's a big thing.
You get a strong core, a strong neck, great cardiovascular activity. They all have good cardiovascular activity, so you don't have to worry about it. They're all aerobic, right? They're all, again, it's how much you want to put into it. If you're going hard, you're going to sweat, you're going to breathe heavy. It's going to be fantastic for your overall fitness, right? So no, don't worry about that. If you're worried about cardio, do whatever is enjoyable to you, right? Some will be more than others depending on the gym you go to. Some will be more focused on that stuff. Um,
That's one thing I noticed when I started. It was um, just a couple of months. I got way leaner than I'd ever been before
mhm.
from
And it
doing
happens
this.
fast, right? Happens
Uh-huh.
very fast.
And it's just almost surprising because I was eating more
Hmm.
than I had been before. Yeah, it felt good.
Yeah, it's almost like you're doing a full. It's essentially you're doing for almost every martial art, you're doing a full body exercise.
Yeah.
Really, for almost every single one, and there's really no wrong answer. If you're just trying to be like, I want to be more confident with my body, and I want to get in good shape. Do whatever martial art literally tickles your fancy, and just experiment
Hmm.
with them. Um, just that's simple. That's very simple advice. If you want like a very sturdy body, if you want very sturdy like let's say you play sports like rugby or hockey, you'd want to try. I guess we could say this is like I might want to get into complementary martial arts for certain sports. So if you play any sport that has to do with tackling or hitting people and lining people up and gauging where their hips are in order to hit them, which is like rugby and hockey and football are very similar in
Yeah.
that aspect. Wrestling and judo will be your best friend, especially wrestling for rugby because the takedowns are literally very similar to a tackle, a lot of them. So That's going to really improve your rugby game and maybe even your football tackles with wrestling. Judo's phenomenal for. I think judo's probably better for hockey because in hockey you are standing up against someone else, and not like you're going to
Mhm.
take them down, but you can gauge people's center of gravity probably better with judo if you learn it. Wrestling as well, but judo's a lot more throwing and grabbing and takedown, right? From a standing position, let's say. Wrestling has a lot more ground game involved, and so does jujitsu. And jujitsu has takedowns as well. Don't mind you, but they're all different in a sense. And I just believe wrestling is very sports because it's less creative and more pragmatic in terms of where the body is centered against the other person. So that's why I think it translates better to certain sports. But let's say if you didn't like wrestling, I'm sure jujitsu would be phenomenal in assisting you at your tackling or hitting sport. And like I said, boxing is great for your biceps, great for your arms, right? If you want to punch really hard, do boxing. It's completely
Mhm.
focused on the upper body and movement of your feet.
In your head.
Boxing has a lot of
Yeah.
foot and head movement that people don't realize exists in boxing. You're almost like dancing. Boxing is very similar to dancing, but instead of dancing, you're hitting. But the footwork is very similar to literal dancing. I'd say it's much more similar to dancing than other sports per se, because a lot of the kicking sports, why they're not like dancing, one foot is always rooted in the ground when you're
Yeah.
actually competing. One foot is very likely always rooted in the ground. Very rarely will you jump and do a kick. That's more for style. That's more for show. Still effective, can be still effective, mind you, but it's more for an aesthetic approach. Like you can knock someone out with your foot on the ground probably way easier than you can standing, right?
Yeah, you think about where the power comes from, it's transferred straight through the ground, so you want your foot connected to
Mhm.
something to actually kind of you push off the ground and into something.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a lot of these martial arts are going to translate really well into like almost any sport you play. It's probably going to make you better at your sport, regardless of whatever it is, because three things that every martial art does is one, improves your cardiovascular fitness. Number two, it improves your hand-eye coordination by far. And number three, it improves your confidence.
Hmm.
Like automatically, it improves your confidence. Like every time, even if you're not that great at a martial art, you know that you're now above average just by attempting to do it for a certain amount of time. You have a lot more confidence saying, "Oh, I can I should be able to kind of defend myself, even if I'm not a pro, like because I can now gauge distance maybe better than I could before. I can now potentially do takedowns maybe that I never could do before.
Yeah.
So confidence is like a number one thing that makes you good at whatever you're doing is being confident in how you do the thing. So any martial art will really assist with that. So if you're like I don't really care, um, about any other benefit, then just do any martial art. You can do anyone that you enjoy.
One good
Um,
way of picking is just maybe there's a boxing gym 5 minutes from your house.
mhm.
So since it's so close, you'd be able to stay consistent with that. You're
Yeah,
not going to pick the Muay Thai gym, which is maybe 30 minutes away.
unless you
So in
really
that
love Muay
case,
Thai, right?
if you really loved it, then yeah. But if you're just the absolute beginner and you know you're going to be more consistent with the boxing,
Mhm.
I would say choose that
Yeah, I
because
agree.
consistency on these things is what's going to make you really good.
Yeah, yeah, I 100% agree. Consistency. If you don't care about anything else, the two things you should have with any martial art is consistency and enjoyment, right? Because if you don't
Hmm.
enjoy it, you won't be consistent. And
It's
if you're not
really,
consistent, you won't enjoy the benefits.
I think it's really easy to get really into these things though. Like,
Oh
like
yeah.
you said, you were doing three sessions a day,
Oh,
and
I
I,
would
I
say I was
remember,
addicted. I would honestly
yeah,
consider myself addicted. I would. This is when I was in probably the best shape of my life. I don't think I'll ever be in this good shape ever again. But
no, don't say that. You
no,
will.
dude, it was unsustainable. It was actually unsustainable. So I would essentially go. So I worked construction, but I wasn't really doing like a hard labor job. I was doing like supervision. So
Mm.
I did my little like supervision, assistant supervision thing, and then I would go to the gym right after work. I would go to the gym because it was on the way home, and this is a separate gym, not the MMA gym. I'd go to the gym.
Yeah, just like
I would
weights.
Yeah, I would do my workout for the day, whatever it was. I adjusted it to the MMA schedule, so Let's say I was doing Muay Thai and Jiu Jitsu that day, I would do like arms because I knew I wasn't using arms as much as I was using legs, right? And then if I was boxing one day, I'd be like, okay, I'm doing like my leg day today because I'm boxing. And on days where I only had like 2 classes or maybe one like longer class, I would swim as well after my workout. So I would do like an hour workout and then I would swim, go home, grab dinner, like a quick dinner. Always something quick and stupid. Sometimes I wouldn't even eat dinner because I was just like in a rush.
Yeah.
Grab a quick dinner, then go to my classes because I have at least 2 per day. I had at least 2. And usually it would be boxing and then jujitsu or Muay Thai and then jujitsu. And sometimes it would be boxing, Muay Thai, then jujitsu, depending how much time I had that day, or like boxing and Muay Thai. Like I really just did just so much of it, and I was like addicted. I was totally addicted because I fell in love with it. Um, and I'll tell you what, I think the most thing I fell in love with about it, I felt so powerful.
Mm.
I felt very invincible, but I was humbled every single day. It was a very weird thing. I was almost like arrogant about having done it, but every class I would go to, there's always someone better than you, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you're a beginner.
Always.
There's always someone better than you, right? And eventually when you do it for someone, you're like, oh, I'm the second best in the class. Or maybe one day you go to class and like the person who's the best isn't there. So like, oh, wow, I'm the best in the class today. And like that feels great. Right? After so long you've been doing it for, like obviously that's what it's going to feel like. And I was really gung-ho on competing. It just wasn't in the cards for me. And I also realized like, okay, I'm not a stupid guy. And I would like my head to remain intact for the majority of my life. And if I'm not going to actually compete, it's probably not worth it for me to even spar. But I still think you should spar even if you don't compete. I still think you should do like try sparring just to see what it feels like. Even if you don't do it often, even if you do it like once a month, once every other month, you should definitely do it to gauge your level, to gauge if you're actually learning and what you need to practice more. It's a good like baseline.
In my class, we did a few sparring sessions. Just one rule: no headshots. It's pretty. That's good for your not getting a concussion, right?
Yeah, and
Obviously,
you could
you
do like
need to know what it's like to get hit in the head, but you can't repeatedly get hit in the head over and over.
Yeah,
again.
and a good rule also is like only jabs. You could only do jabs in the head, right?
Yeah.
And that trains your jab because a jab is so important in boxing, and it won't hurt as much.
Hug to the face.
Yeah, if you take it like you could knock someone out in sparring easily. Like
Mm-hmm.
sparring, so any non-amateur will tell you sparring with a beginner is the worst thing ever because they will try to like they don't know their strength yet, so they will like accidentally knock someone out. Like they'll try to accidentally knock someone out, and imagine you're a beginner going up against like an actual like good amateur fighter or like a novice fighter. Like that dude can kill you. Like don't get cocky. Like that dude can mess you up, right? This is like gym etiquette. It's like if you're a beginner, you know, just all you're doing, all a pro is doing with you is gauging distance, gauging power, gauging your combos, right? Trying to help you learn how to dodge and, you know, use every part of what you've learned, right? If you're going hard, they will mess you up without remorse too, because you're being an asshat, like you're being an idiot. So if you're gonna spar, the first time you spar, just relax. Just relax. You know, everyone's always tense the first time. Just loosen up a little bit. Focus on what you learned and only practice what you learned. Don't try new crap. Get good at the basics. The best advice for anyone that actually wants to be good at any of these sports, any of these martial arts, is focus on the basics. In boxing, if you have a good jab, you can outlast almost any opponent because you can annoy the shit out of them with a jab. In Muay Thai, the teep or the front kick, like a front push kick, it's called a teep. That is one of the most important things because it gauges your kicking distance. You can make yourself some room with it. You can lead up to combos. You can fake one if you're really good and lead up to a combo, right? Like these little basics don't seem important, but the better you are at the little things, the better you will be at the more complicated things. That's just one
Yeah.
little snippet of advice, and there's so much you will eventually learn in your gym. And they'll have like etiquette. They'll teach you discipline. They'll teach respect. They'll teach responsibility. If they're a good gym, if they're a bad gym, you'll probably know because they're like abusive and stupid, and they spar too much, or they're just like, if they're not like a real gym, they're just very soft. They don't really do anything, but that's fine too. Like
Mm,
that's still better than nothing. Like you don't have to go to a competitive gym. I personally just prefer a competitive gym because there's a competitive environment, right? Um, and you
fair
can
enough.
also
Yeah.
help others like train, which is really cool. Like imagine you go to a gym and the gym you train at, one of the guys becomes like a professional fighter. Be like, oh wow, I actually like help this guy train once in a while. Like that's really cool. It's
Mm.
just cool, right? Won't likely happen, but it could.
Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah, it's some
it's
of the most fun times, man.
I would also say I felt addicted to it when I was going. I had about um, I was doing 5 like weightlifting sessions a week,
Hmm.
as well as 5 either boxing or Muay Thai classes,
Yeah,
plus a double class on Saturday of Muay Thai and
very
then
nice.
MMA right after it.
Hmm.
And I was just like wrecked, but and I was also going to college at the same time, so it was just like fitting it all in the schedule. Like you said, like you get home, just like quickly eat a bunch of dinner and then just run out the door back to class again. But
Yeah,
yeah, for that 4 month period, probably the best shape of my life,
yeah,
and
so good.
felt great all the time,
Yeah,
despite
that's
the
one of the other
soreness and
parts
stuff.
about it. The energy and the confidence, I think, is
Oh yeah, energy
unparalleled.
level was
Your
yeah, it was
vril
off the charts. Yeah,
just goes
Vril
off the
was.
charts, dude. Just going crazy with that vril.
I think every
Like,
guy should have a phase where he's like a complete fanatic about fitness.
yeah, at
Like
least
you don't
once
have
in
to
your
do
life.
that for a long. Yeah, just do it for a few months
Yeah.
and at least like just make that your whole personality for 4 or 5 months and just see what happens.
Yeah, and even if you cut it down a bit, like
Yeah, you can
there's a way to
relax afterwards.
figure out a way to make it sustainable. Like, don't do it to the point where you hate it though. Like, do what you actually enjoy,
No,
and then
you
stop when you
probably will
don't enjoy
only
it.
be able to if you love it, I
Yeah,
think.
I think so too.
So we can, yeah. What's what are the barriers to entry? So someone's
The
complete
barriers to
beginner.
entry would be if you're like severely overweight, but even then you can do it. Like the barrier to entry, honestly, like literally being like physically disabled, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, and money, and money.
Yeah,
Obviously, like
I was talking about time and money. Like, what do you need
time and
to?
money.
You need
It's up
equipment.
to you. It's up to you. Most martial arts do not need that much equipment, especially if you're not competing. Boxing, Muay Thai, you'll have gloves for sure. Muay Thai, you may need shin pads.
Shin guards. Yeah.
Yeah, shin pads. Taekwondo, if you're competing, you'll have like there's this whole gear that you get as well as karate. You basically get like a soft headgear because head shots are not that like not very likely to happen except in the higher levels. Um, but Taekwondo, you'll have like shin pads as well. Sometimes you'll have forearm pads, uh, hand pads. They're not really gloves, but they're like kind of like gloved hand pads. Um, so that can get quite expensive. You'll also have like a chest thing, a chest piece. Same with karate that like people can hit freely. Um, Muay Thai. Uh, this is the thing though. At the competitive gyms, they're a little bit more hardcore. Like you may not be using headgear. You always use a mouth guard. I think in almost every single one you use a mouth guard because it's just you if you have braces, you paid a lot for those teeth. Like you're gonna want to keep them kind of
Mm.
nice. So
Yeah.
always
Mouth
wear a
guards
mouth guard.
prevent concussions and stuff too.
Yeah,
So.
always wear a mouth guard. That's like number one. So that's around $40 for a decent mouth guard. Um, you may need a jock, like a jock strap and with a cup, which depending on the one you get, may be quite expensive. I remember because I wanted to compete, I got like a really good one, and it was around $100. But again, you're protecting the arguably one of the most important parts of
The
your
most
body.
important.
So
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to spend $100 on it, right? And it lasts a long time, right? It's not going to break on you. Like
No.
even if it rips, you can buy the strap separately. But the cup is very important. The shape of the cup, right? It's very important. So don't cheap out on your balls. It's that simple. Never cheap out on your balls. And never
Never.
cheap out
That's
on
good
your head.
advice.
So your headgear, don't cheap out on your headgear. Don't cheap out on your mouth guard, and don't cheap out on your testicular technique equipment. So yeah, that's definitely stuff you don't want to mess around with, right? Those three very vital parts of your body. Um, and for BJJ, you won't really need equipment. Most of it's no gi. For jiu-jitsu, you may need a gi, which can actually be pretty expensive, but again, they last quite a while, and you can get them for a decent price. Make sure to wash your gi though. If you do BJJ and no one else smells, you're the one who probably smells. So wash your gi. Hygiene's a big deal, right? And gyms will
Yeah,
kick you
you're
out. This is
rolling
why,
around. Yeah, you're rolling around with somebody. You don't want to be
yeah, don't be stinky.
cut
Like
your
after,
nails.
yeah, cut your nails. Like after those workouts at the gym, I would shower, obviously, and then I would do jujitsu and shower again, and I would wash my gi at least once a week in cold water. I had a cool blue one, so that was fun.
Hmm.
Um, but don't be smelly at the gym. That's just gross. We had like a whole episode on scent. Remember our hygiene episode? Basically, half of it was on not smelling bad because it's so important to just not smell bad. That's like
True.
the barrier to entry of anything is like, oh, you want to get a job? Don't smell bad. Oh, you want to get a girlfriend? Don't smell bad. Oh, you want to go to university and make friends? Don't smell bad. Oh, you want to have fun in jiu-jitsu class? Do not smell bad. If there's one thing I can tell you, and like, do not smell bad. It's like
Yeah.
simple, such a simple rule.
Go
But it's
watch
such a big deal.
go watch Jeremy Fragrance and learn something about
Jeremy Fragrance.
scent.
I like Derek moreplatesmoredates.com. His Dracar Noir pickup videos were some of my favorites of all time.
We should link them. I'll write it down.
Yeah, we'll test like when he tested out cologne on girls. Eventually we will talk about PUA, but let's not get too off track here. I think
Maybe next month.
now that we talked about determining your goals, oh man, we didn't even talk about determining your goals. Basically, if you want to get better at self-defense, you should do something that's more practical, like wrestling, judo, Krav Maga. Actually, can be quite effective at self-defense because you basically are just like messing people up. You're like trying to
Mm.
hurt people. Muay Thai is actually good for self-defense, I'd say, because you're dealing with long distance striking, right? So you don't let anyone get close to you. You know, Chael. I don't know if you know that Chael Sonnen clip. He's like, I can't let you get close like that. Like that's your Muay Thai. It's like I can't let you get close, right? You're using those teeth.
Yeah.
You're using those long jabs. That's gonna help a lot with self defense. And then on the
If
ground,
you're
obviously wrestling or Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, because wrestling can be a bit more aggressive, so it
Mhm.
might be more effective in a street fight. I'm not 100% sure these are street fights, right?
Yeah, well, you just think about what would happen in a street fight if you're facing multiple assailants and you want to be able to hit more than one person at a time. So things like boxing, Muay Thai,
Mm-hmm.
keep them back. Because if you get taken to the ground by one guy, there's no guarantee the other guy is going to be
No,
honorable
they
and
will definitely jump
not
in on
kick you,
you,
right?
and we'll talk about when not to fight. We'll definitely talk about that. But I want to stay focused on goals. If you want to compete, I would recommend doing boxing or Muay Thai or BJJ or wrestling. Those are most likely the easiest things to compete in. Judo as well,
Most popular.
Taekwondo, karate, very popular, easy to do. Sambo's not that popular. You're probably not going to do too much sambo in North America. They probably have it, but it's probably not
What
very
even is
common.
sambo?
So sambo is a Russian style of wrestling. It's actually, I believe, it's what Khabib Nurmagomedov does. He does sambo, and I think he's a world champion sambo. Not only a professional and world champion UFC fighter, but a professional sambo like expert.
Hmm.
I think there's another guy who hails from Dagestan, where Khabib is from, who also is like a pro sambo fighter. I forget his last name, but yeah, he's also a sambo fighter, and that's like a very Russian style of martial art. But it's not as common in North America, right? So you're gonna
No,
probably
I've
focus
never
on
even heard
like,
of it.
yeah, you're probably gonna focus more on like the classics: boxing, Muay Thai, BJJ for like MMA. Those are like the classics.
Hmm.
Obviously, getting good at kicking, Taekwondo. If you want to get good at like stuff all around, I think Kyokushin karate is pretty good for that, for like self defense and just like types of all around types of techniques. Kyokushin's good. If you want to get good at punching, boxing, obviously. If you want to get good at kicking and punching and using your elbows and knees, Muay Thai or Dutch kickboxing, which is basically a variation of Muay Thai. And I believe they're very similar, but they obviously have slightly different styles. Where Muay Thai, I think it depends on where you go, but sometimes they have it more rooted in the you have their front foot more rooted in Dutch kickboxing. I think there's more of an emphasis on like the speed and the head kicking than like elbows and knees. And there's no
Mm.
I don't know if there's clinching in Dutch kickboxing, and clinching basically means when the two people are standing up and lock their arms behind each other's head, and you can kind of do some elbows in there, you can do some knees in there, and do some
Yeah.
takedowns from that position, and that's a very big part of Muay Thai. Um,
Yeah, I
some
remember doing
other
that in class as
sports,
well.
yeah, clinching is a very big deal. It's good for arm strength as well as grip strength and neck strength. It's really good for neck strength, and it's easily translatable to like jujitsu. But I don't
We
think I'm
should talk
missing
about what you
anything.
should do in the gym, lifting wise, to complement martial arts. Like
Yeah,
I
so
know
I'd probably
neck
recommend.
training is one huge one because a stronger neck is going to make you
Yeah, and
less able to
deadlifts
get
would do
knocked
that for
out,
you. Shrugs would do that for you. Um,
or just
literal like
specific neck training, like put a plate
iron
on
neck.
your head and
Yeah, you got to be
or get
careful
one
with
of
neck
those
training
harness
though.
things.
You got to be careful with neck training because chances are, one, you do a lot of it in the martial arts class already, and hopefully if they're good trainers, they have neck warm up and exercises for you that you don't
Hmm.
maybe not necessarily have to like lift in order to do them. There may be specific movements that they'll tell you to do, and the big three: squat, bench, deadlift. Those compound movements, if you do them focusing on speed rather than focusing on the amount of weight you have on the bar, um, those will be effective in assisting like whatever martial art you're doing. Very likely, push-ups, pull-ups, calisthenic movements are amazing for martial arts because they're almost directly translatable, right? That high volume movement,
Hmm.
that's very translatable to martial arts in terms of calisthenics, right?
You want to focus on
And
explosiveness.
yeah, explosive. Yeah, exactly. You're focusing on explosiveness and dynamic movements. You're not focusing on like
Because
aesthetics
um,
and specific like
punches
bicep
and
curls.
kicks, your power comes from the speed of it, not
Yeah,
necessarily the strength behind it. That's why getting a bigger bench press doesn't necessarily make you a better puncher.
no, because you made bench
Um,
press very slow, right? And that's not good.
yeah, you're sort of grinding it out that rep
Hmm.
in a matter of seconds, whereas a punch is almost instant. Just
Yeah.
comes forward and then back. So you want to you're working different nerves, right?
Hmm.
Different types of muscle tissue.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's something to consider.
Yeah, and then I think one martial art that you probably should not do, and I do not recommend to anyone, except if you're like actually probably insane, is Lethway, because Lethway is like insane. You use no equipment. You can do elbows, knees, kicks, headbutts, shots to the groin. It's crazy. It is crazy. Do not do it. I don't recommend it unless you're insane. Then go right ahead. I do not recommend doing Lethway at all. It's
Definitely
like
not as a beginner.
yeah, definitely not as a beginner. You will like probably die. Like it's like Muay Thai. It's like Muay Thai on like steroids. So don't do left away. It's just crazy. Um, but other than that, like and don't be afraid to try a lot of different types of these martial arts. Like if you live in a decent sized city, chances are you'll find almost all of these martial arts that I've mentioned at your local gym. We'll list them off in the notes, and also get into like which one each one is probably the best for. Um, but you know, these are basically like the ones that are actually effective. The ones that are most effective for like UFC fighting and MMA, we're talking the most commonly used ones. Actually, I think 40% or 30% of the champions right now are like top tier wrestlers, and then the next after that is Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and I think that's like another like similar 30% of the champions have Brazilian Jiu Jitsu as like one of their martial arts that they are like pros at.
Hmm.
So those two, if you want to become a real MMA fighter, chances are one of those two will get you to that position as a base, right? A BJJ or wrestling. And then for striking position, I believe Muay Thai is the most popular striking one. Boxing is the next most popular. Dutch kickboxing as well. Very functional in an actual like UFC fight, an MMA fight. Let's say I don't say UFC; it's a specific organization, but an MMA fight, an MMA competition. Uh,
Hmm.
Dutch kickboxing is very popular, and judo very useful, but probably not one you may focus on. You might have aspects of judo in other parts of your training, but chances are it's not one of the ones you're going to be a pro in order to fight. Not that you can't do it, but it's just not one of the more statistically used ones. Taekwondo, phenomenal. If you're not that good at kicking, you should practice Taekwondo to get better at kicking. Um, Karate can actually be effective as well. There's some unorthodox fighters who used karate as one of their main martial arts. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who has a very wide karate-like stance, he tends to use that, and he's a very good fighter. So all these are useful, but like statistically, you're going to use BJJ or wrestling as your ground game, and then boxing and and probably Muay Thai or boxing and Taekwondo to deal kicks and other things that basically striking patterns. So those are really the main focused ones in actual mixed martial arts. Sambo
And
as
that's
well
how
can be a replacement if you're Russian, and someone who teaches Sambo. Do Sambo because it may give you advantage against people who do wrestling because they may not know how to deal with your um, like takedowns because I think they're a little bit more unorthodox
we
in the
actually
way
had
they
one
like
download
function.
from Russia. I noticed the
Yeah,
other
so we
day.
know it's our Russian listener, our one Russian listener. Do Sambo, dude. It's your country's martial art. I believe it started around the 1920s. Try it out, dude.
Let's
It's
do it.
pretty new in terms of in terms of martial arts. It's new, relatively new. So don't be afraid to try it out. And it's clearly working for your people. Clearly working for those Dagestanis. So try it out, dude.
Nice. One thing I was interested that you mentioned before, I think you should explain it to our lovely audience about you're saying what if you had a kid who you were putting through um, martial arts education,
Mhm.
how would you you said you would start him off in like judo and then graduate him up to different things. You want to explain that?
Yeah, so I'd probably start them off in something that deals with takedowns and ground game because one, it gets them used to their own body. Two, they get used to their own strength. Three, it'll increase their hand-eye coordination. Four, it's natural for kids to just
Hmm.
be on the ground wrestling, right? And then five,
How
it's
old
easy
how
to
old would you
learn.
start off a kid?
4 years old
Four?
in jujitsu
I forgot to
and
mention, but
wrestling.
I did Taekwondo when I was like 4 and 5. I
Yeah,
don't really
and
remember
that's
it
not a
though.
bad age to do Taekwondo. There's not many head strikes in Taekwondo, and kicking is a very useful skill, right? So I'd probably put them in BJJ to start, and then I'd put them in some striking classes. So I might even put them in karate, like Kyokushin karate, because it's like all around. I might put them in like Muay Thai as a kid, just so they get used to striking. And then they said they'll likely at that point they'll probably be around 10 or 11. They'll say, okay, I want to try boxing or I want to try something different, right? But by giving them BJJ or wrestling as a ground base, and then giving
Hmm.
them Muay Thai or Kyokushin karate, which is like all around striking, you've now set them up for their body to actually be built differently than a kid who did not do striking and did not do wrestling when they were younger,
Built different.
their body actually adjusts. And you can tell based on the way someone lats are developed and the way someone actually strikes if they've been doing striking since they were a kid.
Mm.
They're literally built differently. It seems much more natural, and their arm extension is completely different than someone who hasn't done it before. So
Cool.
definitely put them in
Does
early.
bone density come into effect too? Like
I'm not
if you're
100% sure about bone density. I don't
having
think they've done
impact
studies
on.
on that.
Interesting.
But I'm sure it would have an impact on one, development of the bones, right? Not like they're striking hard, right? Like I say put your kids in MMA. I don't mean like make them punch each other in the head and compete. I mean make them practice the moves, make them strike on a bag, right? Make them feel what it's like to get hurt on their hands and get hurt on their shins, right? Not to the
Yeah.
point where they're crying. Don't abuse them. If they don't like it, take them out of it because they will hate it eventually, right?
Yeah. You don't
Do
want to
not
do
put
that.
them in something they do not enjoy, and you also do not enjoy them doing, right? That's a big deal. If because chances are they can dislike you for saying, "Oh, I don't want you doing this specific sport," but it won't really. It's not going to kill your relationship in the long run, unless you say no to everything. Like, let's say you're like, "Oh, like son, I know you love football, but I don't want you playing football because I know
Mm.
it's dangerous. I know it's not good for you. Like, I would not let my kid play football." Past the age of like 13 because that's when they start hitting, I think. Like I would not let them play football anymore. I would say, hey, why don't you try rugby? Why don't you
Mm-hmm.
try even hockey's a little sketchy, to be honest. Like I think they get worse head injuries than rugby. I think rugby's one of the best for like not getting concussions because
Yeah.
they tackle
A
properly
lot
a
of
lot of the
a lot of
time. But
places switch to rugby versus football.
and it's a good
I
thing, I
know
think. Or
for that reason.
I wish they started doing classic American football where they didn't have like all these paddings, and it would be a very different game, right? It would be much more similar to
Mm.
rugby in terms of hitting. But whatever, it is what it is. Maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe I'll start a classic American football league where there's no helmets and no shoulder pads, so that you can't tackle the same.
Yeah.
But
Interesting.
anyways, yeah, that's what I would do for my kids, and maybe even put them in gymnastics or dance as well if you had the money. If you had the
Flexibility.
money to do it, yeah, flexibility one and footwork two,
Mm.
especially for dance. Like I know it seems a little fruity, whatever. Put your boy in ballet. They're like 5 or 6. They don't know the difference, man. And it'll trust me, it'll help with their coordination and their movements. So, don't be afraid. And also when they're older, right? If they're like 18, they understand like, okay, it's gonna help me fight. I don't care if I do dance for a little while. There's actually there's one
Built
fighter who,
character.
yeah, it's built character. There's one fighter who, when he was very young, his dad actually put him in Ukrainian dancing,
Mm.
and he took him out of boxing completely for like 3 years, 2 or 3 years. Put him in Ukrainian dancing, and he like learned footwork like better than every other boxer. So
Yeah.
there's things that translate to martial arts for children. I forget who it was. It might have been Triple G, uh, who's like a Russian fighter. I don't know how to pronounce his name. That's why they call him Triple G. Trust me. Um, but don't be afraid to do other things. Like if you're already a fighter right now, and what I'm saying to you, you already know. Don't be afraid to try other things that may benefit your fighting. Like if you do Muay Thai, try swimming. Because
Mm.
swimming, you do a lot of long arm extensions. You do a lot of kicking, like small kicks, with your flutter kick and moving, and that's going to help you develop your lats and your movement, right? It's going to help you develop your biceps and your legs and your hip flexors, right? Your hip flexors are going to get stronger. So don't be afraid to do those full body workouts. Are really going to improve your overall martial arts game, and they're low impact on the body, right? Like all these fighters do they all do running, they all do which can actually impact your joints, especially if you're a heavyweight. Like do swimming instead.
Yeah.
Do like the echo bikes instead, right? Those like the assault bike. Sorry, do a assault bike instead, right? Because that's gonna work that full body cardio, and I think a lot of fighters already do that stuff. But like, especially if you're heavier and you're just starting out, like, do not do running. You're gonna kill yourself. You're gonna kill your knees. Start walking and jogging and walking up hills, but
Mm.
do not run. Do not run unless you're under like a certain weight for your height. it's probably not going to turn out good for you overall. But definitely do
Yeah,
cardio. Definitely do
unless you're like
cardio
top in top in the world, I would say don't destroy your body for any
in other
sport
ways. Yeah.
competitively. Yeah, just try to go for longevity. Be
Hmm.
healthy as long as you can.
Yeah, and if you get injuries at the gym, don't be afraid to take classes off and take a week or two off.
Yeah,
It's not the end of the world. Don't end your career when you can just take a month off, right? It's just
nice.
simple little things that our pride and ego can get in the way of. But again, doing these classes or doing these any of these martial arts will likely humble you. It's likely going to teach you more about discipline. It's going to teach you more about like how skilled other people are, how much more disciplined other people are compared to you. It's going to
Mm,
teach you a lot. It's going to humble you, which would really help me out and give me more confidence as well. Right? It's a very useful thing, man. I think every kid should learn some form of martial arts, right? And you don't even have to put your kid in like the specific ones I said. Like put them in anything, man. It's gonna help them.
yeah,
I think it's gonna help them
even
in the
let
long
them pick.
run.
It's not a big deal.
Yeah, even let them pick, man. It's because they can always change into something, right? Like they have to enjoy it, and you have to enjoy them doing it for it to be
Hmm.
a fruitful activity for everyone involved, right? And obviously, it doesn't
One thing
beat the bank.
a lot of dudes ask me is like where can I meet other men that are also like-minded? And one place I usually suggest is martial arts gyms
Oh yeah,
because
always. Everyone's
every
similar.
guy in there is, yeah, they're similar. They're focused, they're disciplined. They might not be politically exactly the same, but like there's a certain type of person
Hmm.
who gets really into fitness and really into martial arts. And if you're also, you roll with that crowd, uh, you can meet some really good friends
Yeah, for sure.
in these places. One thing definitely you should keep in mind.
Yeah, it's a great place to meet friends, meet guys probably around your age too, because there's usually guys of
Yeah,
like all
exactly.
ages. There's guys of all ages at these gyms usually, in their 20s, in their 30s, in their teens, right? Like they all want the
Even
same thing. They want to get stronger. Usually, they want to have a good time and they want to, learn how to fight. Right? That's like the three basic tenets of like why would you go to a mixed martial art gym? It's like I want to get in shape. I want to learn how to fight, and I want to what was the other one I said?
to hang out with the boys.
Hang out with the boys. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I want to be surrounded by people doing the same thing, right?
Yeah,
It's
that's
what
that's
came here
very
to do
important.
this.
It's important to have a tribe,
Yes,
an honor
sir.
group. We
Yeah,
could probably
exactly.
do a whole episode on that at some point. We will.
We could, yeah, we could definitely. So, I think some other questions we may want to get into is obviously we talked about the type of games people get. We
Hmm.
talked about what you're like determining what your goals are, determining what you wanted to achieve. Um, Maybe let's talk about what it means to be the most dangerous man in the room. That's obviously a very niche concept, right? Because most
Yeah,
people who are listening to this will not be the most dangerous man in the room all the time.
I'm the
But
most dangerous man in my room right now, but
yeah,
I'm
you're the
alone.
only man in your room right now. Yeah, me too, actually. So, how does a gentleman become the most dangerous man in the room, or at least one of the most dangerous men in the room? And I think it really is those things that we talked about earlier: consistency and discipline.
Mm,
That's how you become the most dangerous man in the room. That's how you become the most reliable man in the room as well. Like these are transferable traits. You show up to class, you show up on time, you show respect for your master, right? For whoever's teaching you, you show respect for your teacher. Um, you listen intently, you try your hardest every time. You get better faster. You will get better faster, right? When people
hmm.
like you, they're willing to help you out more than when they dislike you, right? So,
Yeah,
be that
obviously.
likable guy, be that reliable guy in the gym, be that consistent guy, be the disciplined guy, be the guy that cleans up a little extra even though he doesn't need to. Like, be that guy. Everyone likes that guy. Even if you're shy or if you talk too much, like I do,
Mm.
everyone likes that guy. Everyone likes that reliable, disciplined, consistent, you know, willing to do more than he needs to guy. Like, I used to stay after class. I used to clean up a little bit, and I used to do flexibility training. And a couple of people would do it with me. Sometimes I would do it alone, but like I wanted to get more flexible, so I would do it after every class pretty much because I
Yeah, the
really wanted to
instructors
get more
they
flexible.
notice that stuff.
They
I know
do.
they
They
know, like
respect that.
the instructor said to me after about a month and a bit, he's like, yeah, we really noticed that you've not even missed a class every evening. I'm like, yeah, I know, I really like it.
Mhm.
And he would come over and give me like extra pointers. I felt he started to spend more time with me.
Yeah.
Um, so that right there is worth it to be that consistent guy. Like they know you're dedicated, they're gonna spend that extra time on you, and then
Yeah,
you'll get more value out of it.
that's what these coaches are looking for. They're like, oh, this kid loves the sport. He's invested in it. How can I put my time into him, right? How can I make him the best he can be at this sport, even if it,
Mm.
it doesn't last forever? And coaches know, like, students kind of come and go, but if they stay, that's when greatness kind of happens. So don't count anyone out really. Like coaches do not discriminate. They're like, if you come in and you're the worst guy in the gym when you start, it does not matter because they know if
No,
you come consistently and you get better and you get better and you actively improve, they're going to keep wanting you at the gym. They're going to keep you around, right? Because that shows like you're willing to put in the work. If you actually start out bad and you're staying, that shows like you care, man. You
yeah,
care more than the average person for sure.
yeah. People appreciate natural talent, but they also really appreciate just hard work, even
They
without
appreciate
talent.
hard work more. They appreciate
Yeah,
hard work more. Hard work with talent, bro. You're a champion,
yeah.
right?
You're a pro at that point. But if you're
Where
like
like
me, where you don't have talent, but you still are showing up every day, then
yeah,
they're gonna like, hey man, here's a couple extra pointers, and it's gonna help you out more.
it pays off, man. Hard work pays off.
So should we get into for the last part here? When should you actually fight? So we're talking about like a real world scenario.
Hmm.
You're on the street. Um,
You're at a bar. You're at a club.
yeah, nefarious characters all
You're on a
around.
subway station. You're walking down an alley. So when should you actually fight? The best answer I can give you is never. The whole point of learning how to fight is in the case if it does occur, you can actually defend yourself and whoever's with you. But the
Hmm.
smartest man is the one who doesn't even need to fight. He avoids unnecessary, listen to these words, unnecessary confrontation. Someone bumps into me at the bar, or I bump into someone. Hey, I'm sorry about that. Yo, what the hell, bro? What the fuck would you bump me like that, bro?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm sorry about that. Can I get you a drink? Did I spill your drink? Can I get you a new one? You know? And he goes, nah, bro, let's take it outside. Like, yeah, I'd rather not. I'm gonna walk away and just
Hmm.
don't turn around. Number one, don't turn around. Never turn your back to a potential opponent. Number one. Number two, if you walk away, just back away, watching the other person.
Yeah.
Right? That's a good scenario. If their friends are ganging up on you, like take the L, spend like $40, buy everyone a drink. Trust me, it's more worth it than having a broken nose or a cracked jaw. Okay, I don't
Hmm.
care how strong you are. If 3 guys or 4 guys jump you, they're gonna beat the crap out of you.
Yeah.
Right?
It's not a movie.
Do
You're
not
not.
take it outside. Right? Do not be an idiot. And if you're gonna go tell the bouncer, make sure they don't see you telling the bouncer because then they'll wait for you outside afterwards. So
Hmm.
be smart. Avoid unnecessary confrontation. Right? Avoid these things. Right? If you see big guys, if you see belligerent people, belligerent drunk people, because usually it's chances are when you're avoiding confrontation, you're avoiding drunk confrontation. Like
Usually,
a
yeah.
sober person is not going to try to beat you up, is not going to try to mess with you unless you're in a stupid spot. Like if you're walking down a dark alley at night, like don't be walking down dark alleys at night. You're not
Yeah.
Batman. Like what are you doing? Don't be stupid. Just don't be stupid. It's unnecessary. Right? Don't
There's
be in dark
one
parking lots at
scenario. The
night
guy.
waiting to get mugged.
Uh,
Like that's silly.
One scenario that usually happens is there's a female involved. Usually you'll just be minding your own business, or maybe like staring off blankly, and then some guy's like, "Hey, you were staring at my girlfriend." That's usually the thing, or maybe she incites it. if your girlfriend is like, wanting you to go fight for her, like she's like talking shit and then expecting you to go deal with it,
She's
maybe it's
dumb.
time to get a
Yeah,
new
she's dumb as
girlfriend.
fuck.
Obviously, defend your girlfriend if like someone's
If need
actually
be, but
harassing her. But if she's starting shit,
yeah,
like, why are you
just walk
wasting your
away.
time?
Honestly, just walk away. Like
Yeah.
if she's starting shit unnecessarily, like just walk away. And a lot
Hmm.
of guys, like if their girlfriends are stupid, chances are they're pretty reasonable. Some of them. I met some guys who are like their girlfriend are like stupid, belligerent drunks. They talk a lot of shit. They go,
Yeah.
"Yo, I'm sorry about that. She's just being silly." Um,
Hmm.
kind of give them like a look and be like, gauge the situation. Like, how's the guy reacting to what her girlfriend's saying, and vice versa? Like, how are you reacting to what their girlfriend is saying? Maybe, and just be like, the best reaction is like a non-reaction. Like you're almost ignoring something.
Yeah.
Um,
One thing you can say if some guy's like, "Hey, I saw you staring at my girlfriend," don't say like, "No, I wasn't," because then you're calling him a liar. Just
no,
say,
don't say it.
"Yeah,
Just say,
yeah, she looks like a friend of mine from high school. Is her name
"Oh, that's a good
Susan or
one.
something?"
That's a good one. That's actually a good
And
one."
then the guy's like, "Oh, okay." Unless her name
No,
actually is
even
Susan.
even then though, it's like not the best necessarily, but like may diffuse the situation. A good one is like, um, I'm blind. No, I'm kidding. Don't say you're blind. Um, it's very weird. It's a weird scenario. Kind of weird to get out of. Like, don't put yourself into it, right? Try not to like. If you know a girl's with a dude, don't try to stare at her. Even if you're bigger than him, even if
No,
you know
usually
you
it's
know
not
how to
your
fight,
fault
like
either. It's like the guy's
yeah.
trying to start something.
Personally, that's never happened to me. But I'm a bit of a
No, me
bigger
either.
guy, a burlier guy, anyways. So like people don't like they pick on guys smaller than them. No one picks on someone bigger than them. It's silly. So like I guess one another big piece of advice is just like be big, just be large, because people don't
I have
mess
a
with
hard
you when
time
you're
with
just
that.
large. Like be tall. Like if you could just be tall, people don't mess with you if you're just tall. Try to
Yeah,
get
I
taller.
skipped height day though. That's my problem.
Yo, this dude's skipping bone lengthening day. Get those bones lengthened. A couple millimeters will really do you some good. Not kidding. Never do that. That's such a cope. That's a huge cope. Do not lengthen your bones. That's actually silly
And
as
yeah, if
hell.
there's like that's a point where it could break now. Like, don't do it.
It's just
I've
silly. It's
never
just
never
silly. It's
considered it.
not worth it. Just get jacked. If you're short, you have better muscle insurance. Just get jacked, right?
And
Um,
be charismatic too, like Napoleon.
yeah, and just be
Uh,
chill though. Like you don't have to be like hyper short guy. Like be chill, short guy. Be like, I don't care. I'm short. I
yeah,
don't
that's
care.
that's me. I don't care. That's
You don't even think about. You don't
and
even
it's
address it.
no, I don't. And I think that's the
Not
best
you, but
best
like, don't even
policy.
address it if you're short, right? Like, just be like, whatever. I'm short. Who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't fight. Avoid unnecessary confrontation. If you're at the bar with a group of friends, if they're getting into a fight, be like, yo, let's just leave.
Hmm.
Um, it's not worth it. It's better to drag your friend out of the bar than get into a massive fight. Um, it's so unnecessary. And also like
Yeah.
if you know your friends fight at bars, don't go to bars with them.
Yeah.
Unless that's what you
Uh,
want out of your life, that's fine. Like that's chill. Could be fun. Could get stabbed. It's really up in the
yeah,
air.
that's like what's the like
So
the probability that the guy you've started a fight with might just be carrying a knife and then you're dead,
yeah, especially
right?
in a
Is it
big
really
city,
worth it?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not worth it. Buy someone a drink, take the hit on $20, take the hit on $40. You're already at the club. It's not the end of the world. You're already at the bar. It's not the end of the world. A little bit of money, avoid unnecessary situations. You also look like a baller.
Mm.
Because you're like, nah, no. And if they say, oh, you think I can't afford it, if they say, oh, I think you think I can't afford a drink, you say, no, absolutely not. You want to buy me one too? And then they'll say, nah. I'd be like, okay, then let me buy you one. No homo. Say no homo, of course. Um, but it's not complicated to avoid these situations. Just if you see something that doesn't look good for you, just avoid it. It's like you could be the best fighter in the world. Like I said, I think one guy he literally got knocked out at a bar. He was like one of the best fighters. He used to be one of the best fighters in the world. He just got knocked out of at a bar by some drunk dude, like,
Mm-hmm.
and his head hit concrete. And it's like, was it worth it? Like,
No.
do you want your head to smoke concrete? Like, I don't think so, dude. It's just
Yeah,
silly.
especially if you're supposed to be training and staying in shape. You really want to. You're injured. You're screwed up for possibly life if
Yeah.
you have to smash your head on the ground. That's no fun.
Essentially, just don't be silly. If you have a fighting ability, that's cool, man. But just don't be silly. No need to be like you're already macho, right? Be the most dangerous man in the room. Be the one who knows if he needed to fight, he could handle any situation, and then specifically avoid it, so you know you don't need to fight,
Mm-hmm.
right?
The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting.
Yeah, exactly. Right. If you can remove yourself and remove other people you know from a hostile situation without really doing anything, trust me, that's a big W. Might seem
What's
boring.
that?
Might seem boring, but
That Chinese general, and he was like known as like the very best general, and they I think he was a mercenary, but I might not be telling it properly. But basically, he had no army. He had like 60 soldiers in the city, and there was an army of 10,000 marching in the city. But what he did was he just left the gate open,
oh yeah, I
sat
remember
on
this.
top
Yeah,
of
yeah,
the
yeah.
gate, and then they didn't know what he
With
was
the
doing.
flute,
They thought
playing the
yeah,
flute.
he was playing a flute, and like they thought he had some trick planned.
Or a
They thought he was
trap or
there.
something,
Yeah, so they
because he
just
was so
left.
calm.
Yeah,
They
he was
literally
just
left.
confident.
They literally left. Like,
So yeah,
bro,
he didn't have to fight. He just here's the gate, it's open. I'm just gonna play my flute, and you guys,
literally.
you do what you do.
Go ahead, surrender. Go ahead.
But that's like you can get creative. You can
Yeah,
do.
get creative. Be like, you should be like, if someone's trying to fight you, be like, don't threaten them. Don't do anything like that. Don't say, "Do you want me to call someone right now?" Because you don't know who you're dealing with. So the best thing is to avoid this situation.
Mm,
Always, always, always avoid walking down dark alleys. Avoid going out like at 2 a.m. in sketchy neighborhoods. Like, just don't be stupid. Like
yeah,
half the
that's
battle
obvious.
of like natural selection is like literally just making not like just genuinely stupid decisions.
Hmm.
Um, you know, like it's not complicated. Just be smart. And when you're fighting, you'll know like even if you fight, you're gonna get hurt. Even if you win a fight that you're in, you're going to get hurt. So you want to avoid that at all costs. It's not worth
Hmm.
it,
Yeah, it's not
right?
necessarily. It's never really a good day if you had to actually fight somebody,
No, it's
unless
never
it
a
was
good day.
a competition. But yeah, we're talking about
Yeah,
street fights. It's not a good day.
it's not a good day, man. It's stupid. Stupid as hell. You're not Kimbo Slice. You're not getting out of your car, asking people to fight you, and then knocking them out. You're not that dude. That dude is a beast. Was a beast. Rip. But you're not that dude. You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that
Yeah,
guy.
you are
So
not that guy.
don't
Are
act
you
like
that
it.
guy?
I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy.
Oh,
Trust me.
no, me
I'm
either.
not that guy. I don't want to be that guy. I don't need to be that guy because I'm smart. See?
No, true.
And that's why I am that guy. And it goes full circle. That's how you be that guy, pal. Is by being not that guy. Knowing you're not that guy, you can be that guy. And with that,
I think that's the best advice we've given. Yeah, it's a good
that's
place
the
to end it.
best advice we given. Yeah. And with
That
that,
and smell good.
smell good. And be that guy.
Be that guy that smells good. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I love the name of honor more than I fear death. Julius Caesar.